Preview show. I'm your own Scott partner. He's calling Dave Dickens. Dave is in the current city champions of the city of Santee, the West Hills Wolfpack. All of these guys are veterans of that club. They ended the season on a huge note last year. We're going to catch up with these guys and head coach Casey Ash. Dave joining us today from the Wolfpack. These guys are seniors. They're veterans. Braeden Oberg, Max Conaway, and Dylan Freund. Dave, thanks for getting our Wolfpack together. Things are looking pretty good. You know, we kind of had a foreshadowing, right, of how that little mini season might go, and it went almost as predicted in a way, but boy, were they ready ever for that last stretch of the season, and we knew that they'd have a lot of experience coming into this season.
Well, yeah, that Mayor's Cup final definitely. I know that Coach Ash and I were speaking briefly the week before that one, and that's what they were striving for. Is a little bit of a not just a short season, but a tough season. But they had at the end of it, they got a little hardware since there wasn't going to be any CIF championships going on. So I think they really took that into consideration and appreciated that last game. And then the upset over Santana, that's always got to be very nice for the Pack.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Braeden, let us know about how that last game went, because it certainly has to provide the momentum going into this season. You split your two trophy games. They're both great ball games, but the way the team played on that final night and the excitement that you guys had, I can only imagine that you guys are pretty fired up getting these first practices together. Yep. I think Braeden heard me. I'm not.
Yeah. It was definitely something we're looking forward to. Off that loss against
Yeah, I'm gonna pull out and reserve this one for Braeden. Just hang on with that. Max, come on and help me out here. That was a big game. You guys hooked up in that game, of course, for a touchdown, and kind of just propelled things to get it going. And the way the team was all fired up at the end of that game, we all had a tough time through this pandemic. But man, that you can put all your cares aside and that after that one, huh?
Yeah. That win felt great.
With all the
oh.
Go ahead, Max. I'm gonna work on Braeden here.
All right, that one felt great because we didn't start the season off too strong, but our last two games were really
had a pretty
us coming back. Sorry, it's hard to think hearing that.
No,
but,
I'm go ahead.
Experience.
But it felt great. It was just pressure off all of our shoulders, and handing Santana their first loss. It meant a lot to us because they're supposed to be this big bad team, and for us to go out there and do what we do and walk away with the W, just thing.
Yeah, and Dylan, the defense on that night, playing those tough games that you guys had early in the season, that kind of butters you up a little bit. Defense was firing that night against those Sultans. They come in with a big reputation. They got 7 points that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that whole week of preparation, we were just going and saying how much we wanted it. And we went out there and proved that we wanted more than them, and the energy on that field that night was just different. I don't know, it just hyped up. We were just all balling out for you.
Coach, I want to throw this one at you, and that's because you had mentioned it to me about what that was the game that Coach Sutton was at, correct?
Yeah, that was the game that Coach Sutton, I think I told you, was on the sideline, and he, of course, was my coach when I was playing at West Hills, and we have a good relationship, obviously, and came over at halftime and had grabbed the whiteboard and drawn up a play for us that we ended up using in the second half. So that was pretty cool to have Coach Sutton and Coach Shepard, who is another one of our longtime coaches at West Hills down there, pitching in to help the Wolfpack get a dub.
Yeah, Dave, we talked earlier when we had new coach Chris Holmes, of course, and Coach Bussey of Valhalla, and we talked about, Coach Sutton's success and his all-time wins. I don't know. Maybe we have to add a half a victory to Coach Sutton's total to there, but we know that Coach is working on some totals of his own.
Coach Sutton can have that one. He deserves it.
He's had plenty of wins at West Hills and, of course, at Valhalla as well. Dave?
Yeah, speaking of that, what are your thoughts on that, Coach? You got somebody familiar back in there, too, that's back at Valhalla with about a 3-year hiatus, with Charles Bussey at the helms over there at Valhalla again.
Yeah, they're an opponent.
Yeah, I had done something fairly similar 6 or 7 years ago. After being at West Hills and being the head coach for a few years, stepped away and got some other experiences and came back. So walked a pretty similar path there, and he's a good guy, and he's going to get it going in the right direction and make those guys back into the force they were when he was there the first time around. He had obviously a great run the last few years, run the defense at La Jolla. So I'm sure he's learned a few things and re-energized and fired up and ready to attack it again.
Dave, we got Braeden back. We're going to try to hear from him here just momentarily. Maybe I'll talk to you, Dave, a little bit about Braeden. He knows all about himself, but let's let everybody else know about, because Dave, the other night I asked you, I said, Dave, how about, we don't have a lot of returning experience in the Grossmont Conference at quarterback. But you know what? We kind of left Braeden, I think, out of that conversation. If you look at total offense out of the 5 games they played, I mean, Braeden had 650 yards of total offense, and he scored 8 touchdowns. Well, four passing and 4 running. He's a versatile guy. So, I kind of apologize. I don't know. You guys probably didn't see it. It was with one of the other teams, but we were talking about there's really not a lot of returning experience quarterback-wise in the entire conference, not only in the Valley League, where West Hills is appropriately placed and who will be a championship contender this season, but in the entire conference, the Hills League included, just not a lot of returning experience. So I think Braeden is going to be one of the quarterbacks to watch, Dave, in our conference.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, I got to see a little extra time from him as well when my son was playing freshman ball for the Wolfpack, and so it's kind of nice to see him really evolve and into an even better player as he is today. And I know he's going to do even better things and assist in a championship possibly. I think, just out of the gate, if you ask me, I think it's going to be between the Monarchs and the Pack. Just my thoughts, anyway, my opinion.
What we'll do, I'll just see if Braden's back with us. Braden, you hearing us? Your picture looks a lot better.
Yeah.
This is good now. This is good. Forget the first question. I asked Max. I said when you guys connected on that touchdown pass against the Sultans, do you remember that play? And did that kind of set you guys off thinking this is oh baby, come on?
Anyhow,
this isn't
Ramon,
Yeah,
I got something on that play if you want to hear it.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say, is this like class? Is that what they do during class, Coach? They they make their fuzzy screen and then they disappear right when the big question comes on the video. Here comes Braeden, though, but let's see if we can't. Don't worry about it, Braeden. I'm taking all the responsibility. Coach Ash is going to tell us his memory about that touchdown. Then we're coming to you.
Well, that was that week during the weekend when I was game planning for that Santana game. I was thinking about some more ways we could get Max the ball there, and that had been a play we'd used. We hadn't used it yet that season. We'd used it in the past some, and so we had just that was a new play for us. We had just printed it in that week and worked at those 4 days of practice, and then when the opportunity came up, those two guys, did a great job executing, and it was wide open. So it's nice when things go according to plan like that. Not much went according to plan last year, but that was one of the things that didn't. And the job executed.
All right, Braeden, we got you back. I think we're going to work this time. And also, since he talked about that play, I think you and Max, I talk about the experience. You guys might be one of the top returning duos as far as, hooking up last season for connections too. So what kind of connection you got going so far first couple of days and probably through summer as well?
Yeah, definitely. He's been pretty much one of my biggest targets through all of my high school career. We've had a good passing league, a good off season in the passing league, and had some good time to work on the connection and the chemistry. And I think it's gonna be fun to watch when the season comes around.
Yeah, David, I mentioned, of course, back in the Valley League. Look, those games at the beginning of the season, hey, that's just what happened. Had to play Grossmont, had to play tough teams. That's just the way it shook out because of the pandemic schedule, I think, and I don't even remember now. I'm putting it behind us.
Well, I think they would all agree that being battle tested by some of those teams that they did have to play, though, only prepares them for better things to come and makes them tougher for their upcoming schedule and league play this year. I think only thing it'll do is help them, playing those games last year and in a strange season.
Yeah, and it's an interesting schedule. Starting off, I believe, with a couple of home games. Coach can correct me if I'm wrong on this. Just took it off the internet. Never know what you're going to find there. But hosting Kearney, these are teams we're kind of familiar with these type of teams. Hosting Kearney, hosting Imperial, at Olympian, at Escondido, and we can play with them certainly. Versus the Matadors, at Valhalla, that'll be interesting. At the Braves. Then you get into some real meat, the games that really are going to be great. At Monte Vista. Then the two trophy games versus Santana, versus El Cap. Dylan, you scored a touchdown, I believe, in that El Cap game last year. But what's going to be different this year? You guys got to – I know you want to win them both. I don't know which one means more. Dave and I have debated that since we've been doing these shows now for about 5 years. But I think you scored in that El Cap game. What happened that night?
I think I scored against El Cajon Valley. I think it might have been Dylan Snyder who got a touchdown against El Cap. But
sure thing.
Definitely want to come into both the games with like a smart head, trying to win both of them. So obviously they mean a lot to us. But yeah, when the weeks come, we're just going to be preparing extra hard and get into it, trying to win both of them.
Ramon, I think for all the players involved and I say especially both coaches, because they've worked with each other over the years. I think, and with his son playing at West Hills and all, I think that it really means just the same to both of them, and it is really become a real big rivalry. I mean, I've been actually glad to be the one that gets to go to those games because I think they're even more so personally than the Mayor's Cup was great, but this newfound rival that they have at El Cap or if it's at West Hills, I mean, it's been a real nail biter. I mean, right down to the last play at times, and they really play hard, both teams. So, I mean, if you're going to circle one on the calendar and you're a football fan, period, I would definitely say the Burner Cup is definitely one not to miss.
You got to challenge Coach Ash with those 2 games being the last 2 games on the schedule.
Yeah, I kind of like the way the schedule plays out. You know, you're kind of building over the course of the season and have the crescendo there at the end with, you know, in my opinion, Monte Vista has really become the game. You know, that's they've been league champions several years running now. So that's really the one for me. You don't beat those guys and the rest doesn't really matter. So looking forward to that 3-game stretch at the end, and obviously excited about having the Sultans and the Vaqueros at home. Going to sell some hot dogs those 2 weeks, man.
No, this makes much more sense. I mean, this is an exciting schedule for sure. Max, you do more than just catch the ball. You might be, I don't know, best punter in the conference, maybe one of the top punters in the county this season. Do you take pride in that role? You don't want to punt. You never want to punt. When we need a punter, though, you're there.
I personally love punting. I take pride. I take pride in everything I do on the field, and punting is just one of those things. Like, I love being on the field. I don't like to come off. I'll take any chance I get, even if that means I got to kick the ball away.
Go ahead,
I disagree with my partner Ramon there. I'm a real big fan of special teams personally, just because whether it's kicking a field goal with 1 second left on the clock, or if it's punting is actually really vital to the game, and kicking off where you place that ball, and if you can pin somebody back down at the half-yard line or the 1 yard line, it's huge. And field position is one of the overlooked parts of the game, and that's why I've always personally thought special teams was in fact special to the game. So I definitely am a big fan.
You don't handle the place kicking chores though, Max. Is that correct?
No, normally I don't.
Who do you have there?
Our special teams coach, Coach Vale. We always game plan out the punt before I go out.
No, understood.
We're gonna have a little competition for place kicker this year. We got Danny Hermes, who did it for us last year.
In spring, right? Yeah.
Yep. And then we've got our soccer goalie, who's a really excellent soccer player. Came back to football this year. His name's Rhodes Canfield. And then we've got another soccer player who kicked for us on JV, Tyler Haley. So those 3 are going to kind of fight it out at that spot.
You've had some success producing some kickers, and I'm sure Max is, he's a terrific all-around athlete. But when I see him out there and I see the way he punts, I think he's got a future if he wanted to do some punting down the road.
He did a great job on really short notice. We just kind of found him, in the off season. He hadn't been punting for us, and kind of saw some of the same things you mentioned there. So he's as well as he did a good job there last year, but he's actually going to be much better this year now that he's got a little experience.
Yeah, are you taking it that seriously? Being doing the punting chores, but you're getting kind of coached up in that and working harder at it.
Yeah, I've got a trainer, and I go out with him, and I work wide receiver stuff. And when he was my age, when he was like a junior, senior, he did punting too. So I always work on punts with him and like get spirals and my drops. I've been taking this actually pretty seriously. My drops. I hope that it translates onto the field.
Hey, Dave, just wanted to shout out because Coach Ash was mentioned before the show, and then all of a sudden, Dylan's mom kind of popped in, right? And he said, hey, you should shout out Dylan's parents. Dan was a former Sultan, a pretty good football player, and Autumn was a terrific basketball player. I'm pretty sure she was all league. Remember, she was a very good guard, so that was cool that Coach Casey mentioned that. And then they popped in the chat. Dylan's whole crew's here watching, Dave.
I'll tell you what, if Bill Dickens was still here with us, I could tell you right now that he probably spoke to them more than a handful of times at one point. So I could probably ask him, and he'd know in about 2 seconds. They definitely would have told me everything they did from A to Z. So that's phenomenal to have that many athletes in one family.
Hey, and Dylan, they don't wear any purple. Come the Mayor's Trophy game. They're wearing their blue. They're wearing their blue and silver.
No, yeah, they got all the West Hills gear now. Santana Letterman jacket's hanging up in the closet. It's been collecting dust.
Nice. Hey, Braeden, what's it going to look like for you guys offensively? I mentioned the connection that you have with Max. My concern would be having some balance. What do you have behind you in the running game? I think you guys can. West Hills has always shown a propensity to have some great balance with someone who can run and pass. But can you give me some names of some guys that you've seen at practice so far who you expect to get the ball to on offense?
We've been working a few kids in there. Nate Green, I think he's kind of our guy right now. He's a senior now. He's been doing really good work for us. We got Braden Wilson. He's a junior. He also plays linebacker. He's definitely in the running there. He do some good work when it comes time. A new kid came out this year, Orion Coster. I think you might see some reps from him. I think he has a lot of potential, and when the time comes, I think he'll be able to do some good things for us.
I like that. Came prepared on that one. Coach Casey, when we talk to you, numbers are always a bit of an issue, but how are we looking this year? And Braeden mentioned guys who might be playing a little two-way ball. What do you see?
Yeah, we're actually really healthy number-wise. We've got a huge senior class. The senior class has had a lot of success all the way through, and so we've got over 30 seniors. As you mentioned earlier, we've got a lot of experience coming back. We only lost 5 or 6 seniors last year, so a lot of more returning stars than I've ever had. Certainly, which is nice. A good feeling going into a season. You got, Braeden, like you mentioned, an experienced quarterback. He's played 18 varsity football games at quarterback, and I'm sure nobody else in the league has somebody who's done that. Along the lines, I think we're going to be that's really, to me, the difference.
Yeah, the alignment names.
Yeah, we've got 4 out of 5 returning starters on the offensive line. So you're talking about Andrew Ingstrom, who you guys met last year. Ashton Callan, Trevor Mbimbo at tackles. For us. Inside, we've got a junior kid who was a starter last year as a sophomore, Gavin Condon. Lance Brisenio is going to play for us. Yad Galali is going to play for us up front. On the defensive side, some of those same names. Evan Patterson is going to be an excellent defensive lineman for us. So up front, I think is really the difference between this year's team and some of the teams we've had the last few years.
Yeah, Coach, you were pretty proud a couple of evenings that we spoke after. I can't quite pinpoint the exact game, but there was a couple of nights I talked to you, and you were, even in the losses, you were quite proud of your men up front, especially on the offensive line, and the way that they played. Every game that they played last season, with the shortened season, of course, but that you were pretty proud of them pretty much the length of the season.
Yeah, well, there's a way to win football games, and it's with those guys. So, there's a reason Monte Vista's won the last few years, because they've got the hogs up front. So I am excited about having some guys to match that for sure.
And Ramon, I wanted to also one last thing that a conversation. It actually I enjoyed it, and it makes sense. There's teams that have, as you said, Coach, that have 8 or 9 dudes up, and then there's some teams that only have 1 or 2 dudes, and if you have the 1 or 2 dudes, it's going to be pretty tough and long season. And I think coming up this season, you're going to have more of at least a half a dozen dudes that are going to be big for you and make some plays.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of guys coming back who've made plays. You got the guys on here, a couple all-leaguers. Dylan Snyder made a lot of plays for us last year. Cohen Benavente's the kid who turned things around in the Santana game with a pick six. So yeah, a lot of guys who have made plays going to be back on the field this fall.
Might have to call out Braeden. Did I miss it? Did we just go 25 minutes without mentioning Snyder? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dylan. We know you're the man. You know, we know he's a great. I mean, he caught a bunch of balls out. He caught a bunch of balls out. He had to catch at least a dozen, if not more than that. I'm sure of it now that looking back on it. So yeah, Dylan Snyder as well. Dylan, our other Dylan Freund. Are we forgetting anybody else? Who are you working with out there a couple of days? Have we missed anybody? Give me some defense.
Well, mostly on the defensive end, I'm working with Orion Coaster and Brandon Wilson. And Orion Coaster, he played freshman year, but then he took a little break. I think he dropped out of school or something like that to help his family. But then he came playing for us this year, and I think he'll be a really good help with us because he's got some size on him, and I've been working with him a lot. And his mind, he's in it. And Brandon Wilson, the junior, he puts work in and always does what he's doing out there to have a time. Putting in hard work every day. But yeah, those are the two main guys that I work with the most.
Yeah. Well, I think just look, the thing about a West Hills Wolfpack team and the way Coach asked coaches, even in games where they're going to be underdogs, they are in the game because one thing we see, I don't have to tell you guys because you guys experience it, but you haven't seen the Wolf. They don't make very many mistakes, Dave. There's subtle mistakes, if any. I'm sure Coach Ash will point them out all day long, but I'm talking about,
you should come to film on Saturday.
Right. But key turnovers in situations, yeah. I mean, they could happen. Turnovers could happen to change the game, but it's not like they're turning it over maybe necessarily in their own end. I mean, they're when they're on the move or trying to make that gamble that sometimes you got to take, maybe that's when it occurs. But the way the Wolfpack plays, the way they concentrate the game, almost sometimes to shorten the game a little bit in those roles, that's what makes them so competitive, even against the teams that might be favored. This year, not going to be that many.
Well, I think that, and I always like to give credit where credit's due. I mean, the players have to make the plays, but I think Coach Ash is also very fortunate, and I'm a big fan personally. I think that West Hills has one of the top defensive coordinators on his staff, and that's just a fact. Really, it's not an opinion. He's done a phenomenal job for the defense for last couple of years, and I'm sure Coach Ash can vouch for that.
Coach, shout out your assistants here.
Yeah, shout out to Coach London. He's been holding it down on the defensive side for the last few years for me, and really works his tail off and does a great job. He's actually a former member of the pack as well. Played DB for me back in the day. Was an excellent basketball player as well. But yes, very lucky to have him. We got Coach Troy Deal working with our D line on that side of the ball. On the offensive side, I got another former member of the pack that you guys might recall, Eric Figge, works with our wideouts. Your Max shutout, Coach Vale, works with our specialists a little bit earlier. And then we've got Tony Body with the O-line and Hondo Harada working with our slots. So blessed to have a strong staff, guys who show up every day to dedicate their time to kids, man. That's not an easy thing to do, but we've got some very dedicated coaches.
And you remember, Ramon, Coach London was quite the player for the Grossmont College Griffins, also national championship, heck of a player for them. I've seen some of those highlights. He definitely he knows his defensive play. That's an absolute fact.
The Sultans and the Vaqueros games at the end. Was the game last season? Was that West Hills, right? The Santana game.
Yes, last season's schedule they're kind of treating as a one-off, so they kind of threw that rotation away, and now we're starting our next 2-year rotation. So yes, we end up playing them at home twice.
Okay, just wanted to clear that up. Hey, Braeden, everything aside from what we went through, playing through the spring and everything, everything's not quite normal yet. But what is normal is the dates. We're on schedule, so technically this is what you've played for. This is your guys' senior season. Look, I mean, I know the goals are to league championship, win those trophy games. But what can you seriously put forth are the goals individually and as a team, wins and losses aside?
I think personally we have what it takes to go undefeated this season. I mean, that's kind of the goal every season. But personally, I think I want to do the best I can for my team. Just keep the offense moving. Get everything going, put some points on the board. And then as a team, honestly, I think if there was a West Hills team that could do it, I think this is a team that could go and play in a CIF championship game and maybe take home a ring, which it's a big ask. But, I think if there was a team that would do it, I think that'd be us this year.
Max, what do you think about Braeden, the experience that he brings? I mean, you've been working with him. We know you guys were a good tandem last year, but just the role that he has. Coach Ash mentioned the number of games started. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, when it comes to Braeden, he's our guy. When it comes to making plays on offense, he controls everything, and he's the leader of offense. He's the person you want to look up to. And I think that if we go to that CIF championship in that ring, I think we're all going to be great, and then he's going to be leading.
Dylan, what do you think on the defensive side of things? And how about those guys coming off the edge and causing some turnovers?
I think this year for defense, it's going to be really good. We got a lot of returning starters. The defense is pretty close. We have a good bond. The edge rushers, we got he's a really good player. We have Evan, the big boy, he puts in, and yeah, I think our defense really come together this year and just make plays and stop the other team. I think we can do really good this year.
So we can get the pressure up front and depend on our good secondary to shut things down downfield.
Yeah, we got a couple of young kids who are going to help us in the secondary, I think, in addition to some veterans. But shout out to Max on the defensive side of the ball as well. I thought he played really well on defense last year. Was kind of a playmaker type kid who was always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. But considering that it's not necessarily his first position or the primary thing that he does for us, I thought he did a really excellent job defensively. And when you talk about somebody who can come off the edge and cause trouble, Max definitely fits that bill.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, and I think I do remember. Max, did you have an interception like the first series of the season?
Wait, can you repeat that?
Did you have an interception in that Grossman game, the first series of the season?
That was our senior corner, Brandon Kelly.
Okay.
I had 2 interceptions though, so I wasn't left out.
No, not by any stretch. That's for sure. I mean, that's why the experience is there. I just remember Dave going out there first. We're playing Grossmont. West Hills come right up against it. Here comes Grossmont wheeling down the field. First series, Wolfpack intercepted. We know they went on. Grossmont won the game pretty handily, but at that moment, that was the moment for me that we were playing football again. I got to be honest with you, Coach Casey. It was like the first game I went out to the field, I think, on the pandemic, and you guys picked off that pass, and I was fired up and ready to go right at that point.
You and me both. It was definitely good to be back out there.
Dave, you have much else? Go ahead.
I gotta say, if I had to pick one still, though, I know that coach and the guys didn't like the end result, but again, that as always in this last couple of years, that Burner Cup was definitely a barn burner, and something to be there. And there was plenty of energy on both sides, both sidelines. It's one you never want to miss for sure. And it wasn't any different last year, or should I say this year.
Yeah, I think Dave, I kind of maybe I'm doing us all a disservice because those games are the last 2 games of the season, and we know that the Monte Vista game obviously is the one that you have to focus on first, right? Because that's how you're going to have to win a league title on the road. They said it confidently. We want to go undefeated, whatever it is, full season, just in league, whatever it takes to win a league title. But Braeden, if you could just tell me what the you're a veteran now of winning both trophies, basically. We know that Monte Vista game is going to be big, but for us fans, we love those 2 games. Dave loves that Burner Trophy game too. So what does it mean to play in those games? Look, that Burner game is special because the scholarships are awarded. We know it's a very significant event as well. Tell me your experience in those 2 trophy games and what they mean to a Wolfpack player.
Yeah, it's honestly a completely different ball game than a normal football game. The atmosphere is just completely different. I mean, it's always good to get out there and kind of play that almost iconic game. So when you get on the field and you get making those plays in that big situation with the crowd cheering and everything going on, it feels great. It's good because my sophomore year, I played in the Burner Cup. That was the year we lost after I think 7 years in a row. We gave that one up. But it's good to come back last year and kind of show them who's boss. And I expect to do the same thing again this year. The Burner Cup, like you guys have said, has been kind of the bigger game out of the 2 these last couple of years. I think that's going to be one of our toughest games this season. They have a lot of good players over there. So I think that's I'm very excited.
Max, do you think it's a good thing that those 2 games are the last games? You can't look forward to a game when you got, 8 other games in front of it.
I think these 2 games are probably the best games that could have been put back because we both get the entire season to just work and to get ready for these last two games. And both teams know that this is going to be a fight, and both teams are ready to walk in there, fight, ready to go. So I think it'll be really fun, and it'll be an experience.
But then you also have the old cliche. I mean, we do appreciate those games ahead, but the old cliche of one game at a time. We look at the first game on the calendar and get focused up for kickoff. The first game is what matters and what you're practicing for currently.
Coach, the Kearney Comets. Not putting anything in yet, I guess, but host a team like Kearney, that should be a great ball game.
Yeah, we're excited. They've got a new coach, so hard to know what we're going to see, but excited about getting them on the schedule. I don't know if West Hills has ever played Kearney. Maybe it's happened, but it's been a while if it has happened.
I'll have to look.
That's what I was actually going to ask you,
research
Coach.
that one now, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what I was actually going to ask you, Coach, is now did you get – is it a possibility that they might be a non-league opponent for a couple years to come, or –
Well, we do them 2 years at a time. So, yes, for this year, next year they will be, and then we'll kind of see from there.
Yeah, and then we said after that, Dave Imperial comes in. Coach Ash just always wants to take on a desert team once a year, whether it's here or there. I think I think he thinks it hardens these guys to go through a little one trip every 2 years, a little adversity out there. You've always made light of that, Dave.
Yeah.
This time it's at home though against the Imperial Tigers. That's
if you're going to be in Division III, you got to play a desert team because when you get to the playoffs, you're going to have to play one of those guys because they're all in Division III. So you want to have, whether you've traveled or not, some experience playing those Desert Boys because that's a different kind of football.
Well, Dave, unless you have anything else, I think we got some great information from the West Hills Wolfpack, and thank you guys for, helping us out with a few names. We know it's early in practice, and hey, you know what? Guys maybe didn't hear their name. They're going to step it up a little bit, and I'm sure we're going to hear some guys that we didn't hear their name with this ball club as the weeks go along. But we know it's a little bit early to get things rolling, but, man, I'm sure everyone's totally excited, Dave, to get rolling.
Well, football season's being played at the time of year that it's supposed to be played at, so I think that's what makes it even more exciting. I think getting that spring ball in, I think only helped propel us into our regular time of year that we play football. I think it definitely wasn't a disservice, and I want to thank the guys too, Max, Braeden, Dylan, and as always, a pleasure with Coach Ash on the show.
Thanks a lot, Casey. Yeah. Shout out Freund family also. Man, I tell you what, Autumn Freund was a heck of a player.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate all you guys do for East County sports and the coverage. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Dave, thank you so much. We'll see you with another East County football preview.